what we were doing continued to travel around. I got this phone call from a guy, and he said, "Hey, I heard you do paranormal investigation." I said, "Yeah. What's up?" He said, "Man, I've got this thing in my house. I'd like you to come take a look." I said, "Okay." And he started to tell me what it was. And I stopped him. I said, "Hey, hold on. Don't tell me." And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, this is the way I do it. If you tell me that there's an old man wearing a red flannel shirt in your kitchen, and then I come in and I tell you there's a old man in a red flannel shirt in your kitchen all the time, then you'll look at me and say, 'Yeah, I already knew that.'" I said, "But if you don't tell me anything, and I come in and tell you what you saw, then you know I'm not full of it." And he said, "Well, I get what you're saying." So I said, "When can I come over? I'll bring my buddy and we'll get it looked at." So we got a time together and we went over and checked it out. Well, I showed up and I stepped into the house, and I automatically, as soon as I stepped in, I heard a child say, "Hi, I'm Kaylee." And I stepped right back out of the door, because this was the most immediate I had ever been talked to. So in learning what we had about energy and your personal energy, I knew that my personal energy was entirely too low, because I have this gift of knowing. I can step into a place and within 5 seconds, I know what's there. And if it's a spirit of a human, then I know an approximate age range, the gender. I know pretty much everything about it. And I stepped in and she introduced herself to me immediately. And I knew all about where she liked to be in the house. I knew what she looked like. So I just stepped back out of the house. And Joey said, What's wrong? I said, "Well, I went in unprepared." I said, I can already tell you. I said, "There's a girl about 8 years old. Her name is Kaylee. She likes to stay in your living room. But more than anything, more times that you see her out of any place in the house is in the master bedroom." And he looked at his wife and he said, "Wow." I said, "She also is wearing like an overalls type skirt thing. And if you look at it from a distance, it's a light blue colored, and she has a white shirt on underneath that. The dress is actually, when you're up close to it, it's like almost a plaid, but it's real thin lines, but it's white and blue are what the lines are." And he started smiling, looked at his wife, and his wife started smiling. And they said, "Yes, that's exactly what she looks like. That's exactly what she's wearing." And so I stayed outside, and if this spirit of an 8-year-old girl is so comfortable to come at me that I know my spiritual energy is entirely too low. And I needed to bring my personal energy up to match hers. That is a process that I still haven't figured out how to explain, but there's certain times where it needs to be high, and there's certain times it needs to be low, and there's a specific way I do it that I just can't explain, but it needs to be done. So I adjusted my spiritual energy, and we went back into the house, and I walked through the entire house, and in one side of the house, on his kids' end of the house, there was an entity down there. We never gave him a name. He was basically like a grumpy old man, but he wasn't the spirit of a human. He was an entity. I have no idea what his job was. He was just grumpy and didn't want anybody to be around, so we went to the other end of the house and decided to do more investigation on Kaylee. I went into the master bedroom, and at this point, I realized that I maybe had adjusted my energy a little bit too high because she was scared now, and she was hiding. She went into the master bathroom, and me, Jimmy, and Joey were all in the master bedroom, and we heard a noise in the bathroom. The water did not come on, but it sounded like somebody had dumped a gallon of water all at once into the bathtub, and it drained out. And I'd already known that she was in there. I don't know how she made this noise, but I went up to the door, and it had French doors. The left side was closed. The right side was slightly opened to the inside. And I got up next to the door, and I knelt down on one knee, and I was like, my face was right at the door, and I was looking inside into the darkness, and I saw something that got me. I had never seen anything like this, so it took me by surprise. But I was sitting there looking into the darkness, and there's a security light outside that shined in and across those doors. And out of the darkness, her dress flowed out into the light. The light just caught the edge of it, and it flowed out into my face. And it took me by surprise, and I started backing up, and I didn't know what to think. And I told her, I said, "It's okay, don't be scared." And she replied to me, "I'm not the one that's scared," and started laughing. And if you've kept up with the story so far, you know how I deal with kids that aren't there laughing. Again, took me by surprise. And I said, "I'm not scared. You just surprised me." And she said, "Oh, you're scared." And I kind of liked how feisty she was. It was kind of cool. But I asked her, I said, "Why are you here?" And she said, "You're not ready for that story." And things got serious. And I said, "What do you mean I'm not ready for it?" And she said, "I could tell you, but you're not ready. You're gonna have to come back when you're ready to hear this story." So this was something new. She knew something about me. She knew how my mine worked. So I left. The next day, Joey called me and he was extremely pumped. His mom had picked his sons up from daycare, and his sons were 2 years old and 4 years old. She picked them up, and Joey had told her the story of what had happened the night before, but he didn't give her the details. He didn't tell her anything like specific. He just told her that I had come over and there's a girl that's haunting his house. So when she picked them up from daycare, she just nonchalantly asked them, "Hey, is there a little girl at your daddy's house that y'all play with that doesn't live there?" And the 4-year-old chimed up and said, "Oh, you mean Kaylee?" And she went on. She didn't know really what to say. She called Joey and told him that. Joey went ballistic because everything had been confirmed. And he told his mom the details at that point, and his mom was really excited. And Joey said, "You've got to come back. We've got to go further. We need to hear this story." Because now he knows I'm really not lying. I'm really not just filling him full of stuff. There was enough confirmation there, but now there's even more. In which, at that point, when you're an investigator, that type of confirmation really excites you, knowing that you're not crazy and you're not just hearing things. And I mean, a confirmation is always good. So we set up a time and we went back. And this time it was me, Jimmy, and my sister Vanna. We showed up and we felt like at this point, Kaylee knew us good enough to really talk to us and let us know some things. She could give us knowledge. So we got into the house, we got into the bedroom where she was at, and I started talking to her. And I said, "Hey, you know that I can hear you, and you know that I can talk to you. This is Jimmy, this is Vanna, and you know Joey. I'm gonna ask you some questions that we're gonna test and see if they can hear." And she said, "Okay." So I said, "How old are you?" And she said, 8, immediately. She's already answered, so I immediately asked the other 3 if they heard it. And Jimmy had a strange look on his face. And he said, "I don't know if I heard that or not." Vanna, she didn't hear anything. Joey, he didn't know if he heard anything. He just kind of sat back. So I said, "What's your favorite color?" And she said, "Blue." And I immediately said, "Did anybody hear that?" And Jimmy started smiling. And he said, "I think I know what's going on." And this was the moment that he found out the way he hears things is by seeing it. And he said, when you ask her how old she was, he said, in my mind, I saw an 8, like an old school cartoon, 8, skate into my vision and fall flat. And I said, okay. She did say 8. And he said, when you asked what her favorite color was, he said it was like a flashcard that popped up and it was a blue square. And I said, yeah, it was blue. that's her favorite color. So I knew that Jimmy had a version of hearing. So we had both of us together could confirm each other and let us know what the story really is. And Joey was still confused. And he said, I don't know if I'm hearing it or not. Because he is trying to listen in a different way, and he really doesn't understand how to listen for these answers. Vanna, I think, had given up at that point, and she just said, I'm not a natural hearer, so I don't know. So I asked Kaylee if I was ready to hear the story. And she said, yeah, you're ready. And she started telling me the story. And right here on this video, I am not telling that story because the story shook me. And it still shakes me when I think about it. But if you ever see me and you want to know the story, ask me. And I'll tell you Kaylee's story. But I won't do it here. But to move along and give a little bit more information, there was a certain point in the story where she's talking and I'm asking questions. What Joey and Vanna are hearing is a one-sided conversation. Because they don't know if they're hearing her. All they're hearing is what I'm asking her. But at one point in the story, she said, that's when I saw it. And I said, saw what? And she said, the truck. And Joey spoke up and he said, did she just say the truck? And I knew right there. I looked at him, I said, yeah, she did. You can hear. Have you been hearing this story all along? And he still sat back. He was still skeptical because he's getting into this, but it's all new still, basically. So he really doesn't know what to believe, but he just found out that he can hear. And this story that unfolded, none of us wanted to hear.